Welcome to another edition of the Trahern Crews show. Uh, got a really exciting guest today. We're entering into presidential campaign season is in full swing, and we have Michael Kane from the Kennedy campaign. Say what's up to the people, Mike.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I just one correction on that. I don't work for Bobby Kennedy's campaign. I work for American Values 2024, which is a super PAC dedicated to making Bobby Kennedy Jr. the next president.
Awesome. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Trahern. It's great to see you. I haven't seen you in a while, man. It's been a while.
It's been a minute. Good to see. Hopefully, see you in person again pretty soon. You guys are doing great work out on the East Coast, and right now you're doing a lot of work across the United States. Could you tell me, just before I get into the questions, why are you supporting Mr. Kennedy for president in the 2024 election cycle?
Yeah, 100%. So, Trahern, I first met you because I heard about you in a letter that was written by the National Black Caucus of the Green Party, and you were a signature of that. Someone had sent it to me. I read it. It was one of the best letters I've ever seen about the medical freedom movement that really came to prominence at the height of COVID. And it blew me away because I wasn't hearing things like this from the leadership of the Green Party. I was hearing it from rank and file Greens. There were, people that were just your regular party member in the Green Party that were reaching out, that did feel medical freedom was important. And I was shocked that this letter wasn't getting more play. So I posted it at teachersforchoice.org. That's the group that I had founded at the time, because I was a New York City public school teacher. I got fired for declining the COVID shot, and then brought me into all of this activism. And I called, your number was on the letter. I called you up, you picked up, we talked, and that went really well. And then Defeat the Mandates came, where over 40,000 people marched on Washington. And I was one of the organizers behind the scenes on that. And right away, I was like, I got to ask Trahern to come, and speak at the Capitol, at the Lincoln Memorial, which you did do. You spoke in front of tens of thousands of people in Washington, D.C. And after that moment, the mandates slowly started to go away. I mean, quite literally, we were a part of defeating these mandates. And one of the featured speakers that day was, of course, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And when I was fired for declining the COVID shot, Mary Holland, who is the CEO of Children's Health Defense, started to talk to me. I knew her. She's an attorney. Children's Health Defense does prosecute, put forth lawsuits that deal with forced vaccination and religious exemptions to vaccination and all of these things. And she brought it to Bobby Kennedy Jr., who was heading up Children's Health Defense at the time. And they have been helping me and a lot of educators, firefighters, cops, medical professionals who are in the courts in New York City. We were fired for not taking this shot, and we've been in the courts for 3 years. And one of the few people who stood with me and stood with us was Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And he did it when it wasn't popular, just like you did as well, too, just like I did. It was a difficult thing for us to stand up and say no to this. And because of that, Bobby has my support for president. There's a ton of other things in his platform that I wholeheartedly support as well, too. I think he takes these issues on extremely seriously and extremely in depth, the way a statesman really should. Quite frankly, I don't think Donald Trump or Kamala Harris are statesmen or statespeople. I don't. They seem much more like actors to me than like they're actually really digesting this stuff. I feel like their teams around them are going to be manipulating and doing stuff, not them as individuals. And with Bobby Kennedy, I know. I've met him. I'm friends with him. I've talked to him. The level of intellect he has and his ability to chew tough issues and really make decisions for himself that he believes are right. I stand by that, and that's why I think he's the best viable candidate to be president now.
So with one of the issues with, that the Green Party struggled with was getting on the ballot, and when it's hard to get on the ballot, it's hard for people to take your campaign seriously. How many states is Bobby Kennedy on the ballot right now?
Bobby stated repeatedly he's going to be on the ballot in all 50 states and the District of Columbia. Currently, I think he has submitted enough signatures for 37 states to be on the ballot. I think just 9 or 10 just broke in the last 48 hours. You also have, and the reason why he's not on all of them right now is there's kind of a strategy to getting on the ballot, right? Like when the deadline, there's a, as I think you know, Trahern, there's a period of a window where you're allowed to collect signatures. And then there's a deadline where you need to submit the signatures. So from what I've been seeing, he collects in the window and right before the deadline hands it in. It gives less time for people to challenge and throw out your signatures. So there is some strategy involved. That's why he's not on all of them just yet. But he's got a massive, well-funded effort to get on the ballot. They're challenging him in New York. They're challenging the DNC. The Democrats are challenging him, trying to knock him off the ballot in multiple states. But he has a very robust legal team that is, so far, they've been able to stand up to every single challenge. So I'm confident that what Bobby says is correct. He will be on the ballot in all 50 states and the District of Columbia.
Oh, that's good to hear, because we need to be, from most polls I see, most Americans want more choices at the ballot box. So this is good for democracy to me. And there's a lot of talk about threats to democracy. And I feel like one of the biggest threats to democracy is voters not having choices. Today, I think the campaign just released his medical freedom platform. So I wanted us to go talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So again, this came out of the organization I'm with, American Values 2024. And what we've been doing is we've been following the campaign closely and documenting everything that Bobby says, puts out on Twitter, says in his speeches, says when he's questioned. And we have been able to put together what his medical freedom platform is, some of the top issues. And you could get that at kennedyforhealth.com, Kennedy, FOR health.com. And if you go there, just scroll down, or maybe you'll see it. It says RFK's medical freedom platform. You click on that. And it brings up the top, I believe, 12 to 14 issues, somewhere around there. Things that he has committed to do, most of which he could do in the first 100 days. Most of them, almost all of them, he can do as president. He doesn't even need to go through Congress, because the president is the individual who makes decisions like who heads the FDA, who heads the NIH, who heads the CDC. And then after you have those heads in place, what is the agenda that these organizations do? Currently, these organizations do vaccines and drugs, vaccines and drugs, vaccines and drugs. That's what they do. They find ways to fund drugs. They even line the pockets of the government officials who approve the drugs. That's currently legal in America, that if you work for the FDA, NIH, and you work on a drug that you help to get passed, you can get a kickback. That is legal today. So just to talk one point here, what Bobby Kennedy will do is he will make it illegal for anybody working on a drug or a vaccine to financially benefit from that if they work for the government. I know it sounds like 1 + 1 = 2. I know it sounds like real basic stuff, but that's the type of agency capture and corruption that we have in the federal health agencies. So that's another big reason why I'm a big Bobby Kennedy supporter, is that he will be on top of the federal health agencies, and the president has an enormous amount of power for the health agencies. So everybody should go to kennedyforhealth.com. Check out the platform for yourself.
I looked at some of them. I just wanted to run through the 1986 Injury Compensation Act. Could you chime in on that?
Yes. So 1984, 85, around this time, vaccine manufacturers are really in a bad space. They have vaccines that are causing injuries at a level that they can't sustain their business in court, because they're getting sued and they're losing, because their products are being shown to injure individual children that have taken them. So the pharmaceutical lobby goes to Ronald Reagan, who's the president at the time, and says, if you don't give us legal immunity from lawsuits, we're going to stop making these vaccines. So America's not going to have them because we're losing too much money. Reagan initially was against that because he's a free market guy. And was like, whoa, why is the government going to come in and do this? But he was convinced somehow, and he signed that 1986 act. And that act, till this day, is law, and it gives immunity to all of the vaccine makers. If they injure somebody, they can't be sued. if you're injured by one of the vaccines that go under that act, which is the majority of them, but not the COVID one, you go into a vaccine court, quote unquote court. It's not a real court. It is a federal process. And it is very, very difficult. But eventually you might get compensated. And they have done everything they can to make it near impossible today to get any compensation through that fund. But why it's so important to try to amend and change this act or get rid of it or get rid of major portions of the act is every single product in America is checked in safety by lawsuits. If you get a car and you crash and the car blows up in your face and God forbid a loved one or you perish and die, there's going to be a lawsuit. And then that manufacturer is compelled to make a safer car. The pharmaceutical industry has no incentive, none, to make a safer vaccine. And then we just see more and more and more vaccines on the schedule, more vaccines that our children are required to take. And now we see the COVID vaccine rushed out, an emergency experimental product. And we've been seeing that there has been a lot of problems that have come because of that.
Okay. Thanks for clearing that up. That's important for people to know. Here in Minnesota, our Attorney General, he looked into Alina's aggressive, abusive, and deceptive billing practices. Alina's a big healthcare company here, and they were being sued, or people were complaining about that. Would that be something that you think Bobby would take on at the Fed and just bringing in the cost of healthcare?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Bobby Kennedy is Big Pharma's worst nightmare as president. You know, they would much rather have Kamala Harris and definitely Trump as well, too. Trump made Big Pharma billions and billions of dollars during his presidency with major giveaways to some of the biggest pharmaceutical companies in the world. Bobby is definitely against price gouging from Big Pharma. As a matter of fact, he just put out a tweet that we published at the Teachers for Choice Substack. You could go to teachersforchoice.substack.com, and our top post there, we have the tweet at the bottom of it where he says, the Biden-Harris administration have patted themselves on the back for having beaten Big Pharma, right? And one of the only things they did in beating Big Pharma is put caps on some pricing of some drugs. And Bobby says, you know, good for you. That was good that you did that. It was nowhere near enough. If I'm elected, when I'm elected, I'm going to take this to the next level. So yeah, he'll absolutely take on Big Pharma, trying to rake in profits off the backs of mom and pop, off of the average American citizen. But he's going even deeper than just that. That's one of the few things that Democrats will talk to. Yeah, we need to control these prices. We need to, not let them profit so much. They'll speak to that. But all the other stuff that Bobby has in his medical freedom platform, the Democrats won't. They won't even discuss it. They'll act like it doesn't even exist. And I want to say,
Exactly.
I want to say one other thing, Trahern, just about that. That also feeds into the whole anti-vaxxer crazy thing they put on him. Because once they say that, they don't have to talk about these hard issues. They don't have to talk about the 1986 Act that lets Big Pharma put out unsafe products and not get sued. They don't have to talk about how all of these agencies are designed to help and profit Big Pharma and not to help us. So it's just a quick slur so that they don't even have to talk about these issues that are actually critical to every American citizen.
Because a lot of Americans go into bankruptcy off of medical debt and things like that. And the reason why the Black Caucus chimed in on this issue was because of the Tuskegee experiments, because of what happened to Henrietta Lacks, because of a lot of the experiments, even going back to slavery and how it was impacting, people doing experiments on the Black community. But then even I think during the time of the rally or the mandate, I think 75% of Black workers or people in New York were not vaccinated, and then they were saying they can't work, so these are hard, Black people aren't lazy, Black people aren't stupid, they want to go to work, but at the same time, they don't want to have to get vaccine injured or, run the risk because of the mistrust of the government over the years. So that was one reason why you seen the Black Panther Party out at that event. You seen a lot of Black people there. So people were just wondering why that was, and that kind of that history kind of explains it.
Yeah, and
Um,
I'd like to speak to that a little bit. That was kind of a secret that was kept. I'm in New York City. I could speak to that. The overwhelming majority of the Black community did not want to get this vaccine. We all saw it was rushed. It was called Operation Warp Speed. I mean, even just the name alone is like, wait, why don't we slow down a little bit? And then by the
right.
time they really start to mandate it, is August of 2021, but it's the same month the CDC announces the vaccine can't stop transmission. They admitted that.
Mm,
So the only reason you could say you want to force me to get this shot is that that shot will stop me from giving it to you. That's the only reason. Anything else is about how I deal with health and medicine, and that has nothing to do with you. So it was already admitted that this has no
mm,
public health benefit to impacting others. Nevertheless, they still wanted to force on it. And that indicates there's another agenda at play. This isn't just about public health and protecting people. It's about something else. My argument is they want a society where injections are required to access it. You want to go to the library, you need an injection, and you got to prove you got it. You want to go to your job, you want to go get a slice of pizza, you have to prove you got these injections. And thankfully, because of people like you and organizations I work with, we stopped that. But they were hoping that was going to be permanent, that those little cards that eventually would be digital IDs, and that was how you access society. So, you, myself, Bobby Kennedy led a charge of a fight of a spirit in America that we said no to that. We said yes to freedom. Just a crucial issue because it could come back again. We're seeing bird flu now. We're seeing
mm.
now they're saying run and hide. There's bird flu, a new emergency use authorization for a new vaccine that is coming in. And it really looks like what we just saw again. So if we forget or if we just move on to other things and don't remember that, we're going to be doomed to repeat it.
And I was at a bar. It was called Tav on the Ave. It had been on Grand Avenue for at least 20 years. They're closed now. But I went in there. I will always go get the walleye sandwich. I'm meeting, then another Black guy comes in. And then the bartender, we were cool. He didn't ask me, but then he asked the other guy for his vaccine papers. I was like, wow. And then he didn't have them. And so he's like, I'm sorry, bud. So I could see it being used to discriminate. But I'm moving on to the next topic.
Sure.
The crisis at the border. There's been talk about immigration, the crisis at the border. Harris made a speech the other day. She said she was the czar of the border and she would implement a plan that Trump didn't want implemented. What's the Kennedy's position on the border and what's the plan?
So again, I don't speak for the campaign, but I follow it very closely. So I'm just going to report on what I've seen and what I've heard Bobby say. Initially, before Bobby was running for president, or maybe even when he first announced, he was against a border wall. He was against closing the border or enforcement there. But he now admits that came because he had an initial reaction towards altruism, towards caring, towards helping people who were in trouble. That's a large part of what we see of undocumented immigrants coming here is people looking for a better life in a bad situation. But when he went down there and watched and interviewed people that were coming over the border and talked to the border patrolmen and those that were in charge, it completely changed his opinion. He was seeing hundreds and hundreds of people come, not from Mexico or El Salvador or Honduras, where, we're very close connected to these people. And we've seen that type of immigration flow happen, but from Asia, but from Africa, but from all over the place where there are these cartels that are bringing people in and resulting in billions and billions of dollars in industry to traffic people into the country. And because of that, he feels that we need to secure the border and we need robust immigration in this country, legal immigration in this country. There's no what happens at the border is somebody comes in, They have a quick conversation. They're asked if they have any relative they can go to or friend. They say yes. At the border, they're then given a plane ticket, a bus ticket, whatever it is that they need to go there, and a court date 7 years later from that. And then that
Wow.
individual goes to that house. And what do you think happens in 7 years? They miss the court date. Almost certainly they don't show up. So what Bobby's position is this is broken. We can and need to fix this. We need to bring the judges down there that can adjudicate this process right away. And after we fix this broken border, we then need to have a robust legal immigration system. We brought in millions and millions of immigrants into America. My grandparents, came in through Ellis Island. That was all a documented process of what happened. So Bobby's position is that we need to close the broken border. We need to fix it, and we need to have a robust legal immigration system.
Great. The Trump assassination attempt. We seen that. I was out actually. I was in Los Angeles. As soon as I walked back in from the beach, that pops on TV. I'm like, oh my goodness. And then there was I seen that he had a conversation with Bobby about it. Some people say it was leaked or something. Could you just chime in a little bit on that? And
yeah, I can speak a little bit about that. What's very interesting is that the assassination attempt happens, and 2 hours later, Trump is on the phone with Bobby Kennedy, and there was some leaked footage. And from that footage, we see Trump saying things to him that, it's basically been widely reported of him saying, you should drop out of the race and endorse me. It will be good for you. Right. So then rumors have circled that Bobby is going to drop out of the race and endorse Donald Trump. That's not the case. He tweeted fake news, a tweet that went out and said that, and that's not something he's going to do. But something Bobby Kennedy will always do is he is going to meet with important world leaders when they asked to meet with him. So we did meet with him. He met with Trump extensively. I believe there was a series of meetings. We know at least the morning of the first day of the RNC, Bobby went to Milwaukee, met with Trump for multiple hours. Shortly after that, Donald Trump tweets, Robert Kennedy needs Secret Service detail. And then 2 hours later, Kennedy actually gets it when he's been trying to get it for a year and was denied by the Biden administration the entire time. 2 hours after Trump says he should get it and an assassination attempt, they finally do the right thing and give it to Bobby Kennedy, whose father and uncle were assassinated. It's unbelievable that it took that long. But just what my point is on this, Bobby's not dropping out of the race. He's not endorsing Donald Trump. I feel there's people manipulating the narrative to make people believe that is what's going to happen. But what Bobby is running on is heal the divide. I might, disagree with Donald Trump. I might not like a ton of his policies, but he's an important leader in this country. And if he wants to meet with me, I'm going to meet with him. I'm going to talk to him. We're going to try to come to agreements about what should happen, because that's what being a statesman is. That, if you're president of the United States, you're going to have to interact with gangsters, criminals, war criminals, and every once in a while a statesman or two, right? Every once in a while you interact with a good person. So no one should hold against Bobby that he's having meetings. He would gladly meet with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris if they invited him, just as he had met with Donald Trump. This is another reason why I support him so much, is we're in such a divided world. We need people that are willing to have hard conversations, that are not attacking, that are not divisive, that help to bring us together. And that's what I see happening with him talking to Donald Trump, is trying to move in those directions of cooperation and, coming to agreements where they can be found.
That's a great answer. Sonia Massey was shot in the face by a law enforcement officer, I think a sheriff's deputy in Springfield, Illinois. Some of Donald Trump's, the push for BLM and others are to end qualified immunity for police officers who kill people and then they can't be prosecuted. Kind of like what we were just talking about with the immunity for the vaccine injury compensation. Would Bobby be in favor of ending qualified immunity for police officers?
The last that I saw of Bobby posting on this, yes, Bobby supports ending qualified immunity. He does not support it. That's the last that I've seen him put up. Bobby is very concerned with a criminal justice system that does not have justice really at its root core and is more punitive, is putting Black people in jail at a rate that doesn't make sense when we look at what's happening to other populations across the country. This is also a legacy he got from his father and his uncle as well too, talking about civil rights, pushing to pass the Civil Rights Act, things that at the time were radical ideas that the Kennedys really picked up and pushed. You know, the Democratic Party at the time was really not a party that was embracing Martin Luther King, that was embracing civil rights leaders. It really, truly was John Kennedy and Robert Kennedy Sr. that began that tradition in the Democratic Party. And that's something that Bobby Kennedy is proud of. And I've seen him continue to speak to those issues as well.
Thank you. And then my last question is, I was just recently elected the chair of the St. Paul Recovery Act Community Reparations Commission here in St. Paul. There's 107. We were one of the first of a handful of cities to pass a reparations ordinance like that. Now there's 117 commissions, including one of the biggest states in the union, in the California, Illinois, in New York. Your home state also has a reparations commission and task force now. 75% of Black voters are in support of reparations. Where does Mr. Kennedy stand on this issue?
The best thing you and your viewers should do on this is to watch the interview that Bobby did not too long ago, not even a month ago, with 19 Keys. He did an extensive interview that went into tons of issues, but I remember for sure went into the reparation issue. And I'll try a halfway decent job here of summarizing what he said. But I really encourage people to watch this because Bobby's a legal scholar. He's an attorney, and he's really grappled with this in a major way. And he does a much better job than I did. He believes there is a legal argument to the reparation case for Black Americans who come from a lineage, a line that historically their family were enslaved here in this country. He believes there is a legal argument for that, but that the Supreme Court has recently made a number of decisions that make it much more difficult for that to happen. And then also, even when you win, the problem he sees is getting Congress to appropriate the funds to actually pay the money. And the example he uses is Black farmers. Now, there's Black farmers in America that were discriminated against by an individual, I believe it was the Secretary of Agriculture at the time, where these Black farmers won a lawsuit. They had won in court that they were owed millions of dollars because only white farmers were given them benefits that these Black farmers were denied. They had the court judgment. They won, no appeals. It wasn't appealed. It wasn't stopped in the courts. They've had this judgment, I believe, for decades that they're owed it. Congress never appropriated the money for it. They never appropriated the money that these Black farmers are legally owed today. No one disputes that these farmers are owed this money. This isn't reparations. This is in the past 50 years of money that was illegally denied to them over a racist policy. In my opinion, it was a racist policy. And still, even having won in court, the money's not being given. So Bobby sees a very, very big political problem when it comes to reparations, because if we can't get Congress to give the money to these Black farmers who already won in court, what's going to happen with one of the most divisive issues that we have, this reparations issue, for him in the next 4 years? So Bobby, in that interview with 19 Keys, he goes into precisely what he will do to invigorate the Black community, invigorate all communities that are impoverished and that are pushed down, that he knows he actually can do in the next 4 years. So that's the best job I could do of summarizing Bobby's position. But I strongly encourage you to check that out and comment on it further, because he does a really, really good job of explaining the complexities of this issue and what he can do immediately to help communities, including the Black community, right away in his first term as president.
Thank you. And thank you for coming on and answering these tough questions. Next time, hopefully you can bring Bobby with you and we can talk more about these issues and other issues that are important to the Black community. Reach out. Feel free to reach out anytime.
Trahern, I just want to thank you so much, man. You just, at that time in 2021, it was a dark time for anybody who wanted to say no to the vaccine. And the fact that you stood up and you and the Black Caucus made that statement, it was like such a big deal to me and so many people. And it was just my honor to be able to help get you to the steps of the Lincoln Memorial to talk out against this. And I can't wait to come on again and tackle more issues, man, for sure.
Let's keep the conversation going. Thank you. Hopefully I'll see you soon. And thank you for getting me out to DC. That was a wonderful trip.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Trahern. We'll talk soon.
All right. Peace. And that was Michael Kane. He's advocating for Bobby Kennedy in the 2024 election. Remember, we're supporting candidate. This is not an endorsement. We're inviting candidates on to ask them how they feel about the important issues here, the issues that are important to Black Americans, especially the reparations issue. I want to take this time out to give a big shout out to Shaniqua Johnson, Anika Bowie in the St. Paul City Council. They've been really pushing hard on the reparations issues and had a budget hearing last night to make sure that the St. Paul Recovery Act Community Reparations Commission will have money to do the work that it's supposed to do. We're going into Black August. So next week, BLM, Minnesota, tomorrow actually, we have a community dinner in honor of Black August, and that will be taking place at Indigenous Roots. Then the following week, we have the Black August National Reparations Conference coming to the Hilton. You can go to the Eventbrite and register for that historic event. Then we have on the 24th, we have the Black Fair, Black August Black Fair. You'll find out more about that. So we have events all Black August, and we'll also be interviewing candidates who are running for office all month. So if you know anybody from the Harris campaign that wants to come and speak on Kamala Harris's behalf, tell them to get at us. If you know anybody from the Trump campaign that wants to talk to us about issues that are important to the Black community, tell them, come on the show. Let's have the discussion. And then it's Earn the Black Vote with us. We know the Black vote has to be earned. We're not just going to vote for anybody just because they belong to this political party or that political party. We're actually looking at the issues. We're actually looking at their platform, like we just did with the Kennedy campaign. And we're going to ask them tough questions so that you can make an educated decision. Thank you for tuning in to the Trahern Crews show. This will be rebroadcasted on www.blacktvs.com or Black Watch Television on your Roku channel. Have a great weekend. Peace.